Good afternoon, Nikki.
Ooh, hello, Mika. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how excited I am to see you. And like I said, my heart is just pounding
I'm
because
so excited to see you
you
too.
know how much I
Especially,
love you.
we don't get to see each other all the time,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we're so far apart. And then, of course, we had COVID all this time. So it's not
yeah,
like, although we met traveling, it's
yeah.
not like everybody's been traveling all over the place.
I know.
Okay, let me start. I'd like to welcome everybody viewing and everybody watching the playback to a lavish conversation. Today's lavish conversation is featuring none other than the dynamic Nikki Nanos, my sister. I am so happy to have Nikki here. She emits from her whole being nothing but light, nothing but peace. I mean, I'm sure she doesn't always feel peaceful and light filled or whatever, but that's definitely what she gives. From the second I met her, that's what I felt. And when I decided to have these conversations, you were one of the first people, honestly, that came to mind about the fact that existing is not enough. You definitely show that, you give that. I remember I met you, for the people that don't know us, in a very dark time in my life. And when I met you, the light that you brought, it shined through so hard into the moment, into my life. And it was so necessary, so needed. And I mean, I remember a very distinct moment standing on the beach. We used to watch the sunrise. We met in Hawaii. And when we were on the beach one morning, I'm sitting there and okay, I stalk my friends. Okay, I'm just going to be honest. So like we'll be places and I'll just be taking pictures of you. If you look cute, I'm like, wow, you look cute, or you look beautiful, or you're something about you is giving to me. So I'm just going to capture the moment if possible. So when I saw Nikki, and she didn't just enjoy the sunrise. She wasn't just experiencing the sunrise, but it's like you were absorbing the sunrise, absorbing the energy and the possibilities, the opportunity of the day even. Just limitless thoughts came to mind, but none of them were limiting. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And I mean, you have the picture that I took, one of the pictures I took of you
yes.
that morning. Had no idea. I was just snapping away. But yeah, and every conversation I've ever had with you then and going forward has always embodied that same type of peace and inspiration.
Wow.
Now, if you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself from your perspective, though, and from your real life, if you could introduce yourself, um,
Oh,
it might make even more sense, in all honesty, of why I felt this way when
yeah.
running into you.
Yeah, well, Mika, I just can't tell you the joy it is to see your beautiful light, because I always think there's special moments, of course, with you. And I think of that moment when I came to the place we were all staying, and we're on the porch and we met each other, and it was like instant boom, here's this
Yeah,
crazy, crazy woman just going like, ah.
right. I know you're like, who is this lady
Who
with, like,
is
I
this?
had faux locks like down my back, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, Nikki. My name ain't Nikki, but my middle name is Nicole.
Nicole.
You know,
Yeah, right. I remember that. And
and
so,
from that moment
yeah,
forward, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was the whole experience was beautiful. And now I'm getting off track, but let me go back to a little bit about me.
Yes.
And I think, probably in line with what you talk about is I've searched my whole life to find me, and I never knew how to do it. And that's kind of where mindfulness, we'll talk more about it, came in. But I've spent most of my life in film, television, and theater, working, behind the scenes mostly. I got a master of fine arts in acting,
Yeah.
but most of my work was done behind the scenes. And it was an eclectic career. You work on a show, then you go to another thing, you go to another thing. You kind of just bounce around a lot.
Right.
And I was always searching. I knew there was something in me deeper, and I know that I've always had a beautiful heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that I managed to keep alive in me no matter what was going on in my life. So
Mm-hmm.
I did that. And after I got out of the film business and I worked in a corporate environment, which just about killed me. But, it was like it brought out the worst of me. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized that I
In
need
what
to be,
way?
well, it brought out the worst of me in that I was always the worker who, went above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I became that totally disengaged employee
Because it wasn't your passion.
because it wasn't my passion, and the way they treated people was
Yeah.
not exactly pleasant. And I finally got myself out of that. I said, I've got to do something. And then I went into speaking. I quit my job. I mean, here I am. I was 62. I just turned 62.
Mm-hmm.
I quit my job. Basically, told them I was semi-retiring, but I
Mm-hmm.
was really, really retiring from not working for anybody else.
Uh-huh.
And I
Embarking
started,
on a new life.
yeah, and I started embracing speaking, but there was always something missing.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel like there's always something missing. And I started also coaching speakers,
Right.
which I loved. It was kind of like being an acting teacher because I've taught acting.
Right.
And I love bringing out the best in people. Speaking's not acting, but you can use the skills in
Right.
speaking. But so I did all of that, and then it was about 5 years ago, five
Mm-hmm.
6 years ago. I coached a TEDx speaker who
Mm-hmm.
was a psychologist speaking on mindfulness.
Uh-huh.
Now, I didn't have a freaking clue what mindfulness was.
At that
But
moment.
yeah, but it piqued my interest just to listen to her. And I said, there's something here. I know there's something in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept toying with it,
Right.
never finding that place. And it wasn't until COVID hit and
Mm-hmm.
I lost, basically, I didn't have a lot of clients, but I've lost the few clients I had because they, all said, we got to take care of our family. And I said, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that took me on the road to really start looking into mindfulness and meditation.
So what is mindfulness?
What is mindfulness? Well, to me, it's bringing your presence to a place of awareness with curiosity and compassion.
I
So
love
being aware in your present moment, really being aware of where you're at, what's going on with you.
it.
So
Mm-hmm.
whatever comes at you, you become so aware of your feelings and what's in your emotions, what's coming up in you.
Right.
And if it's not a really good emotion, a discomforting thing or situation,
Right.
then that's where the compassion comes in. And
Mm.
we've got to bring compassion to ourselves.
I talk
That
about that a lot, having grace for yourself. Yes, that
Yeah,
compassion that
yeah,
you're just human as well.
yeah. And that was one of the hardest things for me to do because I never truly knew how to love myself.
So is that your why? If you had to define what your why is,
Yeah.
that you felt that, that twinge of things aren't, something's missing, things aren't quite complete. What would you say that would be? How would you define it?
It really was being able to love yourself so that I could share that with others in an even more deeper level and let them find that love in themselves.
I
Because
love
we
that. I love that because I talk all the time about how people, we the number one Bible verse is, love your neighbor as yourself. I would say, I think that's the one that's the most easily quoted, and people talk about it all the time. It's like the golden rule, right? Like,
Yeah,
treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself. But
yeah,
nobody really thinks about that whole loving yourself. And
yeah,
I don't mean love yourself like be selfish, like treat other people like trash. I mean, like, truly love yourself enough to realize that your light lights up so many other worlds. Like, if you didn't realize that, would I have run into the light that I did when I met you? You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure you always had it in you, but was it exuding the way that it does?
No. And that's it. It just keeps growing. It's like, I feel like every person in the world has this, no matter how bad they are, has a little ember in their
Mhm.
heart, in the center of their heart. And it can, all it needs is a little kindling to start to light up.
Yes,
And
yes.
once you get the kindling, then the logs come on and you just go, you get on fire
We have a
because,
song I talked about in our last live, actually, in my church. It's called it says it only takes a spark to get a
yeah,
fire going.
wow.
It's one of my favorites. It's so true. And from the retreat we were at, like
Yeah.
just watching that ignition, that ignition, that
That
watching the
ignition.
fire
Yeah.
ignite.
Yeah. Watching
It's
the
such a
fire.
magical moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and that's, that's where you've got to really, I was never taught that, to,
Hmm.
to feel compassion or love myself, because we're always taught to take care of everybody else.
Yes.
And I think that's maybe where that verse in the Bible, love thy neighbor as thyself, is people look at it more outwardly than inwardly.
Right. Exactly.
This
Exactly. Because if
is
you
where,
don't love yourself, you become an ugly person to be around.
yeah.
And so you're not loving your neighbors. Nobody wants to be your neighbor, in all honesty. Because that lack of love and care for yourself, it spills over. The fact that you don't clean your home, the fact that you don't take your trash out, the fact that you know what I mean, you
Yeah.
don't exercise proper rest, relaxation. Those things
Yeah.
make you nasty, snippish,
Yeah.
all of those things, resentful even. Let's not get into depression and all those other
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
But the mindfulness that you speak of, so how did you step into actually acting in a state of mindfulness?
Well, I think it was the combination of the class that taking at the School of Positive Transformation, the mindfulness meditation
Hmm.
class.
Yeah.
I started on that journey, and it seemed to me the meditation was more sinking in with me.
Hmm.
And about 3 months after that, I found who I just adore, my teacher. I call her my teacher, my mentor, my coach, this, and her name is Mitra Manesh, and she's out of Los Angeles, and she is a mindfulness teacher, thought leader, storyteller. And I found her about 3 months after I had started the other course. It took
Hmm.
me, I think, 8 months to go through that course
Right.
because I was really doing everything, right? Really trying to get into it. And because she's a mindfulness teacher, I was taking every class she possibly had. So month after month, I'm taking classes. And I learned so much about mindfulness and really starting to tap in to, wow, what am I feeling? Where's this coming from? What's the emotion that goes with this? And you kind of realize that you have all these little children in you.
Hmm.
Those are all those thoughts. And what I learned from her is that they were controlling my life. Everything that I learned from the time I was little was
Hmm.
all being placed in here, and most of it, rest my mother's soul in peace. I mean, she loved me, but but there's that but. She had expectations for me that I didn't have for myself, and this is where I got lost, and this is where I got all the fears that came in, because every fear about, from money to, you're supposed to do everything for other people and never for yourself, and you're only supposed to be this and not that. Like,
Right.
I was told girls don't need to go to college when I grew up.
Hmm.
And I was just supposed to get married and take care of a husband. And
Right.
this is not me. There was something in me that kept fighting it.
Hmm.
So she, basically taught me all my fears.
Right. Well, what you were supposed to be, all
Yeah,
the
what I
things
was
you
supposed to
were going to
be. Yeah, yeah. So I never figured it out for myself, and this is where Mitra's class has started to teach me. So little by little, I started visiting these characters that would
be.
come out. Like, I have this. We all have male and female in us,
Right.
right? We have the feminine and the masculine,
Right.
and my feminine character came out finally. I was doing this meditation and I saw this little girl about 4 or 5 years old, in a little red dress with white ruffles. And that goes back to something that happened in fourth grade. But I saw that part of me, and she was in a cave and she was crying and she was dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And she came out and she says to me, she goes, "I'm so sorry that I messed up your life." And I went, "Oh, no, you didn't mess up my life. I did. I'm the adult here." And that was the beginning of me breaking through into
Mm-hmm.
this world of, these characters that really are in your head. People say they don't talk to themselves, but right away, I'm sure everybody out there is going, "Oh, this woman's probably crazy," or she's really talking some good stuff. So people are talking to themselves all the time.
Right. Even saying that statement, they're talking to themselves.
That's exactly right. They're saying, so where did they learn that? And,
Right.
and it's where you learn it and where you take it. And then all of a sudden, well, I named and I name my characters. I do things like that. So
So
I
what's
think
her name?
her name is Rawly, Rawly. And this is what came out of it. It was after I thought of this name. I don't know where it came from, but these things all happen for a reason. I came up with an acronym for her name,
Hmm.
and it's Raw, Awakening, Work, Loving Yourself.
I love that. I love that. Definitely. So Raleigh, you said that reminded you of something in fourth grade, which reminds me, I feel like the premise of feeling like you're just existing, or realizing
Yeah,
rather that
yeah,
you're just existing and that you're not living to your
right.
fullest, is
Yeah.
something that we run into more than one time throughout our lives. I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like it's something that happens multiple times, in all honesty, even if we don't recall it. So, when do you recall the first time that you were like, wait, I need to step up my game, or I need to evolve, or I'm not living, I'm just out here
Yeah.
existing?
Yeah. I think that, there's been many times in my life, but I didn't have the tools. And
Mm,
that's what mindfulness taught me. So, really, if you want to really look at it, I just now recently have really truly found that place. And
to
and
step
in
back.
two months, I'm going to be 70 years old.
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
and I sit there and go like, before, when I was in that other state of mind, I'd go like, "Oh man, I've messed up my whole life, and all this happened." But when you got a good teacher, and she said to me, she goes, what was it? Nothing, nothing is a mistake.
Mm,
Nothing is wasted. She
yes.
said, nothing is wasted. And this was it. Nothing is wasted. Everything in your life has led you to this moment,
At this time,
at
for
this
a
time,
reason.
this
Yes.
moment, and this time. And when you start to look at it from another perspective, you realize like everything that I've learned, all the crap, that you, if you want to use that word, that you
Yeah.
go through in life, all
Yeah.
the things you put yourself through in life
Yes.
are all the things that now I can help others release
Exactly. Exactly. And work through
and
themselves.
work through them. Yeah. And
But it's funny because it's all about perspective.
yes.
Because, like you said, you're about to turn 70. And I think it's amazing, first off, because of, like I said, the youthfulness, the light that you carry with you. Nothing about you gives traditional textbook 70-year-old. You know what I mean? Not for when I was, what I would think 70 would be. And I mean, honestly speaking, that in itself is a testament to, while you felt like you didn't have the tools and you were working, you might not have had all the tools you needed, but apparently you had a couple of things in that toolbox there. And apparently, the universe was timing perfectly for you in your world,
Yeah.
because you do shine. It shines through you, definitely. Like your awareness, your true living, like you are not just out here existing. And I'm not just talking about being mindful or meditating. I'm talking about truly your actions, your life, your day to day. You don't live your life on a, I'm going to just exist type
Right.
of scale, even quitting corporate America, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. There was always that thing in me. And so, out of and going back to my characters, out of the feminine came my masculine, and
Mm-hmm.
I named him Ajax. Now, I didn't I was because I'm Greek, okay? I'm Greek.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm going like, okay, that's a Greek name. Well, I didn't realize the significance of the name because Ajax was a warrior god in
Mm-hmm.
the Iliad, in
Okay.
Homer's The Iliad, but he's also uh, the god of sun and light.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the one that kept me going. And because I realized coming from a Greek family that the boys were put on a pedestal, the
Right.
boys were up here, they were given everything, they were told to go to college, they were told, everything was given to them
Right. And you're supposed to marry Greek and have babies.
and have babies and just take care of my husband and my children.
Right.
Well, I wanted more and I did everything myself. I went to college myself. My whole life has been with really no support but to do it myself.
Right.
And I got so tangled up in that is that you start to go, well, you just got to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it does bring a sense of loneliness to you because
Right.
that's another part of it is living, is knowing that you can ask for help too.
Yes, because you might not have that support from your family,
Right.
but there is a circle out there. There's a family for you. There's a tribe for you that is, on the same wave, that's welcoming, that would love to hear, and not just love to hear, but needs to hear your perspective and your insight and be shown your gifts. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? In order to ignite their fires. That
Yeah.
spark is meant for them. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an amazing perspective on things
Yeah.
and awareness.
And that's it, is being aware of just everything, around you, and not being afraid, because what I see sometimes now in people was the same way I used to be.
Hmm.
And everything becomes more evident, like, well, if I got rid of these people in my life, I wouldn't have any friends. And I sit there, and you hear people complain about these people, and that they bring them down, but yet they're afraid of losing them. And
Right,
I go, I don't, now it's like, good riddance. I
right.
don't need this negativity in my life. I just want positive people in my life. And there's no more lack or scarcity
Hmm.
left with that. So if somebody walks out of my life or gets mad at me, I go, you know what? That's them. It has nothing to do with me.
Yes. Yeah, somebody in the chat said amen. I was just about to say amen. Yes.
Yeah.
That is a word, Nikki. I mean, truly, because it only is something you learn over time, because
Yeah.
we're taught that. I mean, you see people with friends, you're like, oh, well, I want to hang out with my friends. I want to, but then if you're surrounded by these negative people, kind of like if you're in a toxic relationship, how
Yeah.
can you expect the right people to step into your circle if your circle is full of the wrong people? First, you
That's,
have to get rid of some of that, that fat, and make some room for, what's meant to be there.
oh
You
yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
can't grow what? You can't grow blooms in garbage. Dirt, yes, but not garbage. There's a difference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all perspective, because you think of the lotus flower, how it comes from the muck and
Yes,
appears,
yeah.
and it just, so it comes from this mucky surface. And sometimes I feel like I'm that lotus flower, or I'm the phoenix that has risen from the ashes finally. And
Right. Oh, how about that?
yeah,
Yeah. But if you
yeah,
throw a bunch of junk on top as opposed to the muck, you know what I
yeah,
mean? That junk is what holds people down.
yeah,
We think we don't think of it from that perspective,
yeah,
but it's just so true. Like if you surround yourself with low vibrational people, in other words, if you're, gossiping and complaining nonstop, I've had people who would call in the mornings and be like, hey, you headed to the plantation? Stuff like that. Like when you're headed to work, and it's just like putting
right,
yourself these little mindsets, though,
right,
like little statements, little negative talk can change your whole perspective on your day. I was just telling somebody, when I wake up tired, I intentionally do not say I'm tired. Like, I try to avoid it at all costs until I'm awake all the way. You know, like, I'm not tired. I'm up. It's going to be a great day. I'm ready to get the world, whatever I can come up with.
Yeah.
So
that's important.
What type of pushback have you run into, especially with you choosing a life that's not necessarily so traditional all the time? When I know it's not always accepted and embraced, and like you said, you didn't feel a lot of support. First off, what pushback have you run into? But secondly, also, how did you keep yourself from feeling resentment for the lack of support that you ran into as you were, growing up?
Okay, that's a couple questions. Let's start with the resentment first. Is that was something that, again, mindfulness taught me the tools to work through, and you got to do it a step at a time. Mm-hmm. You have to go to that place and go, okay, when I think of this situation, like maybe somebody said something, and you just go like, okay, I feel it. I'm feeling it in my heart, or I'm feeling it in my gut, or maybe both places. And I'm having these thoughts like, I'm really not good enough, am I? Because they said something like you shouldn't be doing that. So to me, I'm translating it, right? Mm-hmm. And so my thoughts are going that way. So now I've got to get in tune with that thought and say, where did it come from? What is my unmet need that has brought me to this place to feel this way? Mm-hmm. And my unmet need was truly just being loved. And that's really like where it all goes. But you take it a step at a time. And there were times that I would go to it and sit with it. Mm-hmm. And then I'd say, and you have to learn to say, that's enough for today.
Right.
I can't go any deeper than this.
Right.
And sit with it and let it, absorb whatever happened. Then maybe another day, maybe a week later, you go, okay, I've got to go back to this, and I got to take another step in.
Right. And I can imagine it goes into a dark place. You have to visit the dark in order to get through it.
Yes.
Back to the light.
And it does. It takes you down to the bottom where you can see, and you're in the bottom of this pit, and you finally go like, now I understand. I have to have compassion for myself and understanding. And you go with curiosity. And this is big, because if you look at things more curiously, mm-hmm. you can't judge. Mm-hmm. So if because my mother's passed away, right? I've never been able to really ask her about a lot of things.
Right.
And of course, she would always turn around and go, well, I love you.
Right. I mean, I was about to say, some of us with parents still here have that same situation.
But she would constantly remind me that, my brother is a year and a half older than me. And when they had him, they wanted twin boys. So I was going to be the second boy when I was born, and I was a year and a half later. And my mother would remind me, we really wanted to have twin boys. And I'd go, well, thanks, Mom.
Right. Such a subtle comment that she probably had no idea what weight it held.
No. And so this is where my masculine kind of took over in me. And I was a tomboy because I saw the attention and the love boys seemed to get. Mm-hmm. But anyway, going back is that I had to work through all that and understand that she grew up in a whole different culture and time than I did, because I did have a sister who was 12 and a half years older than me.
Okay.
So my parents at the time were older having me. And at that time, 36 was really old having kids. Right. But, they all had their kids like, when they're 18 to 21 usually.
Yeah.
So going with that curiosity made me understand where she came from. And it's only through that understanding can you actually let forgiveness happen.
That's very true. So understanding her perspective, or trying to put yourself in her shoes.
Yeah. And going with curiosity, because then I can't judge her.
Yes. Yeah. I love that.
You see what I'm saying? And this is everything I've learned. These
Mhm.
are all things that I've learned. And so then that, but what was the other thing you asked me before that,
That's along the same line. So look, with
resentment?
regard to that, I'm sure that that was triggered in you as you ran into people as you were going through your journey of evolution who were like, "Oh, what do you mean you're not going to work in corporate
Oh,
America? What do
right.
you mean you didn't get married and have a bunch of Greek babies and you're going to cook for us and all that great stuff?"
Yeah. Well, we can take that to what I'm doing now, with
Yeah.
mindfulness and meditation, is that I get a lot of resistance. Of course, I live in Texas right now, and
Mhm.
there's in the South, there's a lot of Christians, and nothing, I don't have any problem, but they have a problem with it because they think that mindfulness or meditation is some kind of religion, and and it's taking you away from, so they get afraid of it. I mean, I've had people
Right.
say, "Oh, do I have to be afraid of you?" I mean, seriously, I've had a couple of people go, "Well, isn't that meditation like a religion?" And I go, "No,
No,
it's not."
it's
And
sunshine.
and again, it's where they're not taking the time to understand, to
Yeah,
go
the
into that
mindfulness.
curiosity, right?
Yeah.
And try to understand. And I love that because I've always been a curious person.
Mhm.
Ever since I was a kid, I know I brought that with me because I'm really a kid at heart.
Right.
And but I lost some of it, and I lost some of my creativity along the way. But
Mhm.
now I'm finding it all again. It's all again blossoming. Like I said, I'm that phoenix, like the big wings just coming out of the ashes, and
Right.
saying, "Here I am."
That's a
Um,
good analogy for you, actually. A phoenix, like you do give phoenix in
yeah.
your greatness. Like when you see them unfurling from the smoke and everything, you do give that. That's what your spirit gives. But with regard to now, so how do you feel like your evolution is? Do you feel like now on a day-to-day basis when you wake up, do you feel like I'm living every day? Or do you
Yes.
find yourself in those moments still?
Oh, there's the moments that come up, but that's the whole thing about, are my thoughts controlling me or am I in command of them?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't try to control your thoughts because control is a harsh word.
Right. Yeah.
And so you take command of them and go, we've been there, done that, see you guys later. Either you come with me or you don't.
Yeah.
You come to my place. And just like you talked about waking up in the morning, I mean, I'm a little stiffer as I've gotten older, but I stretch across my bed and I just go, think of things I'm grateful for. And I
Mhm.
just start saying that as I'm stretching. I go like, I am grateful that for this beautiful day.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for this person, that person, whatever person comes to my mind. And
Right.
I say that, and that helps me go through the day. And
Mhm.
not only that, but just enjoying the moments,
Yes.
even though I'm alone. Like I always have these aha moments where something becomes a little clearer to me. And I'll get up and I just kind of dance around the room and go, yes, I got it. I got it. So I enjoy the moment instead of going, oh gosh, I hope neighbors aren't seeing me through the windows. But
Right. Right.
it's like just being, finding and being that part of me that I suppressed for so long.
I also wanted you to share with our
Yes.
viewers about you and I talked about affirmations a couple of weeks ago, and
Uh-huh.
we were talking about how people say affirmations,
Yeah.
but the problem in them working
Yeah.
oftentimes, and
Yeah.
how you don't really believe what you're saying, and if you
Yeah.
don't believe it, then what's really the point in what you're saying?
Yeah.
And
That,
so, what was your, if you don't mind sharing?
no, I don't mind sharing that at all because I think this is so important to understand this. Is I tried the positive affirmations, and you might feel good for a minute or maybe a week, right? And then you go right back to where you were. So I don't believe in saying I am to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's to start. Because when we say, I don't know, can you see the sign behind me that says I am amazing?
Oh no,
Can
no,
you
I
see
can't.
that one? Okay, let me just let me bring my camera a little wider. Okay. Can you see
Yeah,
it now?
I can
Okay.
see it now.
All
Yeah.
right. So that sign used to say, be amazing. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And it was my teacher who told me during a coaching session, she said, someday I want that needs to say, you need to cross out the B and it says, I am amazing. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what happened was I realized that when I said things like, I am amazing, my thoughts were going, no, you're not. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're really not. And when you change the word to may I be amazing, you're then giving yourself permission to go there.
Yeah.
And your thoughts are going, oh, well, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, no, you're not, no, you're not, because you're trying so hard to say I am and it's not sticking. So when you say may I be amazing? And it took me 2 months to finally, I painted over the B totally and painted it. And 2 months before I hung it back up on my wall, because I said, now I can actually say, I am amazing
You truly are.
and believe that. That was a really a turning point for me. Um, yeah, but
Did you do anything special to make you realize in that time that
yeah,
you really were as amazing
yes.
as you are?
Yeah, and let me tell you, and I'm glad you said that because it leads right into where my thought was, and this is why it's like we're connected. Is that I I had the coaching session I had with my mentor about when this came up
Mm-hmm.
at the very end of it, because I always felt unseen and unheard. And she said 3 words that totally changed everything. She said, I see you. And it was like this stroke of lightning came out of my heart and grabbed onto those words just like and
Mm-hmm.
took them in. But I wasn't sure of where it was at yet.
Right.
But the sincerity, the love, the just her gentleness, it was like this person really
Right.
sees me for who I am. And I kind of get chills. I'm trying not to I don't want to get emotional, but she and she went on and she said, I see who you are. And I see, you know, who you can be. And I want you to see it. And it was like, so that just sat with me, but that I see you just became wow.
It
Because friends,
resonated.
yeah, your friends see what you can do, an
Mm-hmm.
outwardly thing, but
Right.
she saw like through my soul,
Right.
and I just felt that to the depth
Mm-hmm.
of me, that someone finally really sees me, and
Yeah.
I'm still discovering parts of myself. But
Right.
yeah, but it's so beautiful
And
when
it's
you
so crazy when you think about it because, like I told you, the moment I met you, I saw nothing but light and beauty. And I don't mean, yeah, you were dressed cute. Don't get it. You were cute. But I mean, I'm talking about from inside out, like genuinely, your authenticity, just everything about you, it was beautiful and is
uh,
beautiful. And so you're seeing more than you realize, which is the funniest part about life.
yeah,
Because, like you said, we spend most of our time talking to ourselves. And so as we're talking to ourselves, that self-talk isn't aware that other people are watching and taking notes. And you know what I mean?
yeah.
I sit in the not in the sunrise, I sit in the sunset and I absorb the rays in the evening. I have
Oh,
a little spot in my house, but seriously, and when I do it,
that's
I think
great.
about you actually.
Wow.
Like that's where I got it. And I sit there and I absorb it and I let it re energize me. and I kind of meditate in that moment on my gratefulness for my day, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that that's, you know, your impact is amazing. So
Yeah.
as we're wrapping up though,
Let me bring my
what
camera back.
words, what
All
do
right.
you have on your heart, if anything, that you would like to share with our viewers about, or anybody, not just our viewers, but what is on your heart to share about why existing is not enough?
That brings me to actually the word that I have tattooed on my wrist, on my arm here. It's Meraki.
Mhm.
Meraki is a Greek word,
Yeah.
and I never in my life thought I'd get a tattoo. But when this word came back to my mind, and you understand it, it means when you pour the essence of your soul, your love, and your creativity into what you do, then you found your Meraki.
Hmm.
And you've got to really listen to it. It's not just you're putting your soul, like, people say, oh, I put my, soul and love into this or whatever, but it's the
Right.
essence of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you listen to a musician who plays an instrument, maybe a violin, and you can feel when the essence of them is in it,
Yeah.
or artwork, an artist painting, you feel the essence of them in it. And that's why it's such a beautiful word, because it's not just there, it's part of them, and it's finding that part of you,
Yes.
that deeper beautiful part of you that encompasses all of that, your
That is,
love, your creativity, and your soul.
yes, that's so powerful. That literally is the difference between existing versus living. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that sums it up. That was beautiful.
yeah.
So Nikki, where can
Yeah.
people find you? Because you do offer coaching services, as well as, do you still do meditation services as well?
Yeah, actually, I started doing. I haven't been doing them online, but I've been doing live workshops here in Texas, uh, and my website is my name, NikkiNanos.com. So you can go there and get information about me. And if you happen to live in the Texas area, maybe come to one of my workshops. I'm doing them once a month right now. I got a beautiful little space that was gifted to me. This is where the universe just comes in. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
a woman who owns an art gallery in Grapevine, Texas. I walked into her shop totally by accident because a friend was late for lunch. And I would have never gone to her shop. And we started talking. She goes, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a mindfulness meditation teacher." She goes, "Oh, I've always wanted to do something like that here. Would you be interested?" And she said, "I just want to give you the space to do it," because she said, "I love the sense of community." So once a month, she allows me to have a class there, which is really wonderful. And it's been such an incredible place to be when it's that knowing that when I
Mm-hmm.
stepped into that space and sat down to teach for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
I said, this is home.
You felt it.
I felt it in my whole being. I said, this is where I've always belonged.
That is so beautiful. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. And the
And
word of today again is, one more time,
Meraki,
Meraki.
Meraki.
And roll the R.
Yeah,
Meraki.
Meraki. Yeah, the Greeks kind of roll their R's a little bit.
Meraki. I
But
feel the flavor in there.
I just wish everyone, I mean, I just send this energy to everyone to find the compassion in yourself and start there. Start with loving yourself.
Yeah.
Truly, truly loving yourself, because that's where everything begins.
Oh,
That's
thank
where
you
that little
so
ember will blow up into this beautiful fire. And
Thank you so much for joining us, Nikki. I appreciate you for coming. I appreciate everybody for viewing, the people that are catching the playback, the people that are here viewing live.
yeah,
Nikki Nanos, Google her. You can also find her at nikkiNanos.com. Please make sure today you get out here and live. Don't just be out here
yeah,
existing, because that is not what you're made for.
That's
And make your self-care a requirement today, because you are not an option.
Yeah. You're never too old. Remember that. It doesn't matter what your age is, there's always time to find you,
Yeah.
find yourself, and
And
love
you're worth
yourself.
it.
And yeah, you are worth it. There's no other words. And Mika, I am so grateful for this time, and thank you all for being here, and those that will hear it later. I'm so grateful to share what I've learned with others.
Oh, I love you.
Here, let me get my big heart back out. Love
Had
you,
me in the
sister.
rainforest taking pictures and sending them to you.
Yeah, yeah. But
Thank
I mean,
you.
that was a great. I could, we could go on and on because
Yes,
that
yeah.
that trip to Hawaii there were so many special moments in it.
Definitely.
You know,
Definitely. Very meaningful ones for me too.
yeah,
And I appreciate you and thank you
yeah.
for all of those experiences also. Truly.
Someday we got to talk about that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Maybe we'll do a group chat with some of our Hawaii friends.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be great. But I love you.
Love you. Thank
All
you
right,
so much again, Nikki.
thank
I
you. Thank
appreciate
you
you. And
all.
thank you all for joining us.
Yeah. Bye bye.